brutal Russia-Ukraine war. And honestly, it feels like it's constantly shifting.
It really does.
But what we're seeing right now, it feels different.
Yeah.
Not just another escalation, It feels like a fundamental change, maybe even a dangerous new turn.
That's exactly right. And that's our mission today, really. To unpack these latest developments, look at how the whole geopolitical landscape is shifting so fast.
And figure out what it all means.
Exactly. The potential consequences. We've gathered some sources that offer some, well, critical insights, sometimes pretty alarming ones, into how this is all evolving. We want to help you make sense of it all.
Alarming is definitely the word.
Yeah.
We're going to get into some surprising stuff like an American fighter jet being shot down, which wasn't really expected.
Right.
And Germany suddenly being seen by Russians as their biggest enemy. That's a twist.
A huge one.
Plus, this new hypersonic missile that's just appeared. It's all adding up to something complex, something new. These aren't just random events.
They're pieces of a puzzle, definitely. A puzzle that's changing the whole picture of the war.
Okay, so let's unpack this. Starting with the immediate flashpoint.
Yeah.
This huge Russian drone and missile attack on Ukraine. The biggest ever, apparently.
Yeah, the scale was really something else. Our sources are detailing like 477 drones, mostly those Iranian Shaheds and Juran-2s, the suicide ones.
477 in one night.
In one night. Plus over 60 cruise and ballistic missiles mixed in. It wasn't just, firing things off. It felt like a deliberate attempt to just completely overwhelm Ukraine's defenses.
A sustained onslaught.
Precisely. And what's really significant here is the strategy behind it. It shows a clear shift. Russia is using what our sources are calling a combo strike.
Combo strike. So mixing drones and missiles together.
Exactly. Not just one or the other. They're coordinating them, sending them in waves from different directions, all designed to confuse and saturate Ukraine's air defense systems.
Make it harder to track and intercept everything.
Right. The idea seems to be that even sophisticated defenses struggle against that sheer volume and complexity. It forces you to rethink how air defense even works against this kind of multi-pronged attack.
And the biggest hit from this specific attack, the downing of an American F-16. That's major news. These planes were meant to be a real boost for Ukraine.
A game changer. That was the term everyone used. And yeah, its loss is a significant blow.
Yeah, Russia's claiming more than just one, right?
That's the other startling part. Their military is saying they've actually destroyed 3 F-16s over the last 3 or 4 months.
3, really?
That's their claim. If it's true, it suggests Russian air defenses are, maybe, more capable or adaptive than we thought. It certainly chips away at Ukraine's air power and points towards Russia gaining an edge, maybe even dominance in the air war.
Which raises serious questions.
Definitely. Like, how vulnerable are even these advanced Western planes to Russia's current tactics?
So if the F-16s aren't the invulnerable solution they were hoped to be, what does that say about all the other Western weapons Ukraine relies on?
It's a fair question.
And you can see why President Zelensky keeps pushing, keeps demanding more advanced air defense systems from NATO. It sounds like they really need them, urgently.
Yeah, the vulnerability is clearly felt. It's not just losing a plane, it's about the bigger strategic balance in the air. And this changing military reality, it's not just on the battlefield, it's having these ripple effects, politically, geopolitically, leading to some really unexpected shifts in perception.
Like the Germany situation you mentioned.
Exactly. We're seeing reports from a recent survey in Moscow. Get this. 55% of Russians surveyed now say Germany is their biggest enemy.
Wow, 55%. More than the U.S. or the U.K.?
More than the U.S. or U.K., who usually top that list. It's a dramatic change.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting, as you said. Why Germany? Why this sudden massive shift? They have complex history, often more dialogue focused with Russia in the past.
Well, the sources point pretty clearly to Germany's current leadership. The new chancellor, Friedrich Merz, he's taken a much more, aggressive stance towards Russia.
It's not just talk, though, is it?
No, absolutely not. It's backed by action. Germany has been consistently sending very advanced, very lethal weapons to Ukraine. We're talking Leopard tanks, top-tier artillery, air defense.
Stuff that actually hurts Russian forces?
Stuff that demonstrably has hurt Russian forces significantly. And Moscow has noticed. They clearly see Germany as a key enabler of Ukraine's resistance, and that seems to be why Germany's suddenly enemy number 1.
And then there's this chilling incident. These arson attacks on NATO's supply trucks. In Germany itself.
Yes, that adds a whole other layer. Highly suspected to be the work of Russian intelligence, the KGB.
And these weren't empty trucks.
Not at all. They were carrying millions of dollars worth of mines and missiles destined for Ukraine. It suggests a new level of boldness, of direct action from Russia.
So what does that imply? If Russia is potentially carrying out sabotage, inside a NATO country.
The implications are pretty grave. It means the intelligence war, the shadow war, isn't staying within Ukraine's borders anymore. It's spilling out.
Into NATO territory.
Directly.
Right.
And if it's proven to be state-sponsored sabotage, that risks a direct confrontation between Russia and NATO. It moves things from covert ops to something much more open, much more dangerous. For you watching, it means the lines are blurring. The conflict could potentially spread in ways we haven't seen yet. It's, very unsettling.
So how is NATO responding to all this? We heard about their summit in The Hague recently, June 24th, 25th.
Right. They made a pretty significant decision there. They agreed to boost defense budgets across the board by 5%.
5% increase. That's quite a commitment.
It is. And the stated goal is explicit, to build up the capacity to potentially wage war against Russia for the next 10 years. It's a long-term strategic shift.
But what's fascinating here, and maybe worrying, is that NATO isn't exactly united on how to proceed, is it?
No, not entirely. There are definite internal divisions, even with this clear threat. You have key players like Germany, the UK, France, pushing to really isolate Russia economically and militarily, kind of like how Iran has been treated.
Encircling them.
Yeah, weaken their ability to fight. But then you have others, like Hungary's Prime Minister Viktor Orban, who's known to be closer to Putin, strongly pushing back against anything that looks like direct confrontation. He's worried NATO's getting dragged in too deep.
So you've got these internal disagreements, and then you have the U.S. position under President Trump, which can seem unpredictable.
Unpredictable is a good word. He criticizes Putin one minute, then seems softer the next. His main focus often seems to be just getting NATO members to spend more on their own defense, rather than forging a really unified, aggressive strategy against Russia.
That America First focus.
Right. And that inconsistency, combined with the divisions like the one with Hungary, it weakens NATO's unified front.
Does that make it easier for Putin?
Well, these cracks in the alliance, this perception of disunity, it potentially does make it easier for Putin to advance his plans. It might embolden Russia if they think NATO isn't fully cohesive in its response.
And meanwhile, Putin himself seems incredibly focused. Single-minded, almost.
Absolutely. His objective seems crystal clear right now. Gain full, undeniable control over those 4 Ukrainian provinces in the east and south, Donetsk, Zaporizhia, Luhansk, and Kherson.
And they already control a lot of that territory.
Yeah, reports suggest somewhere between 77% and 90% of those areas are already under Russian control.
And the fighting there is just horrific.
Our sources describe eastern Ukraine as a meat grinder. Just relentless, brutal fighting, hundreds of soldiers dying every day on both sides. Russia has apparently moved in around 100,000 specially trained troops into key cities like Pokrovsk.
Doubling down.
Completely. And Putin's statement on this is chillingly clear. Wherever Russian soldiers' feet land, that land will be Russia's. It signals zero intention of backing down or compromising on those territories, no matter the cost. That resolve really contrasts with the debates happening within NATO.
Which brings us back to something incredibly serious, the nuclear threat. It feels like Russia's bringing that back to the forefront again.
They are. It seems to be a direct response to NATO's pressure, the weapon supplies. It's not just background noise anymore.
So what are they actually saying or doing?
Well, you have Foreign Minister Lavrov explicitly warning of a nuclear explosion if Russia feels cornered or encircled. There are also signs that Russia might be changing its actual nuclear doctrine, possibly lowering the threshold for using such weapons.
Lowering the bar.
Potentially. And alongside that, Putin's been conducting very public, very regular nuclear war exercises. It's a clear signal, a reminder of their ultimate capability, and perhaps their willingness to consider it if they feel their core interests are truly threatened.
This raises an important question then about this new weapon they've apparently used, the Resnik hypersonic missile. What is this thing?
Okay, this is where things get genuinely terrifying and potentially change the game entirely. Its capabilities are unlike almost anything we've seen.
How so?
Its first reported test use was in Dnipro, in Ukraine, and the impact was apparently so immense it registered as a 4 Richter earthquake.
An earthquake?
Yeah.
From a missile impact?
That's the report. And here's the crucial part. A Resnik apparently doesn't carry a traditional explosive warhead.
No warhead. Then how does it cause so much damage?
Pure speed. It travels at an incredible Mach 11 that's over 8,000 miles per hour. The sheer kinetic energy on impact is immense, comparable to a volcanic explosion, they say.
So it just pulverizes everything through force.
Exactly. It can apparently melt or vaporize targets. The level of destruction is likened to a tactical nuclear blast, but crucially, without the nuclear fallout.
So they get nuclear-level destruction without technically using a nuclear weapon.
Precisely. It allows them to inflict absolutely devastating damage, potentially bypassing the international red lines and automatic retaliation associated with nuclear use. It's a new kind of horrific warfare.
And NATO must be incredibly worried about this.
Deeply worried. And the fear, according to our sources, is that Germany, given its new status in Russia's eyes, could be a potential first target for this kind of weapon outside Ukraine.
And all this is happening while the intelligence agencies are still fighting their own war in the shadows, right?
Oh, absolutely. That hasn't stopped. Ukraine's SBU has had some significant successes, taking out Russian targets, even generals. But then you have, as we mentioned, suspected KGB activity like the arson attacks in Germany. It shows that spy war is definitely escalating and spreading geographically. Which brings us to the reality for people in Ukraine right now. It's just incredibly stuck.
Constant fear.
Constant fear of missiles, drones, severe shortages, energy, water, daily life completely disrupted. And even though around 52 countries are providing support, there's this growing feeling of isolation, maybe. And the hard truth is, with these Russian advances, Ukrainian territory is shrinking slowly but surely.
You read reports, and it just sounds like hope is dwindling. Every day brings new attacks. Every night brings fear, like being trapped in a nightmare.
Yeah, terrible dream is how one source described it. No clear end in sight, just relentless pressure.
And Putin's goal seems pretty clear through all this.
Yeah, it seems brutally simple. Take eastern Ukraine completely. Gain that leverage for any future negotiations. And, as he apparently sees it, shatter Ukraine's pride. Break their resolve.
And sending 100,000 troops there means he expects more heavy fighting.
It signals exactly that. More brutal, grinding conflict is likely coming in the east as Russia tries to cement its control.
So NATO, and particularly Germany, seem determined to keep supporting Ukraine. But the huge question is, how will Putin react? After 3 years of war, showing he'll make nuclear threats, deploy things like a Resnik, how does he respond to continued resistance?
That's the critical unknown. And it makes the whole situation extremely serious, possibly the most serious it's been since the start. There's a real risk of this escalating into a wider European war, using weapons we haven't seen before on this scale. The consequences are, well, almost unimaginable.
This deep dive really hammers home just how grave, how uncertain things are right now. This phase feels truly perilous. What's the one thing that really stands out to you from all this?
For me, it's how the very nature of warfare is changing right before our eyes. We're seeing weapons like Oroznik deliver potentially catastrophic destruction without crossing that formal nuclear line.
Blurring the line.
Completely blurring them. So the provocative thought I'd leave listeners with is this. As war takes on these new, terrifyingly destructive forms that bypass old thresholds, what new rules, what new international frameworks do we even need? How does global stability work when the established rule book is being torn up and rewritten in real time, right in front of us?